So the subject of the day, where did the towers go? Well, once upon a time, there were 2 towers. Then they went away. That material there is all that was left of that building. That's building 3. A lot of people overlook that building. And this is the remains of Tower 2, about the lobby size down there. To remind you of how big of a mass was there. And then it is gone. This picture was taken on 9/11. Where is all the debris? They didn't burn up, nor did they slam to the ground. They turned into dust in midair. But we were told it was a collapse. Collapse, pile, terror. Collapse, pile, terror. And people start seeing what they're told to see. But if you look at this carefully, this is frothing up. It's frothing up into dust. Controlled demolition, they slice and dice a building and the parts slam to the ground and break up as they hit the ground. This is already turned to dust. So why did so few people see it? Well, it turns out there's 3 reasons I can see for people not being able to see what's in front of them. Problem-solving skills, groupthink, like peer pressure, and they're terrified of the implications. Any one of those things, one or more of those things, will prevent people from seeing what happened. But I'd like to focus on the problem-solving. The answer is 27. I know, the answer is 27. Am I right or wrong? What's the question? Depends on what the question is. You need to define a problem before you can solve it. I call this a syntax error. The ordering matters. And if you get things in the wrong order, you don't get the same answer. So if this is what the order is that was intended, you get an answer of 27. If you do the operations in a different order, you get an answer of 19. Some people say, okay, let's just average them and we'll get, something right. No. How does that apply to the World Trade Center? Well, a lot of people begin with a theory about how it was done. Airplanes, bombs, fire, nukes, mini nukes, thermite, various different choices, a multiple choice test. And then they go cherry picking the evidence to support their choice. But that's going to be a biased data collection, because what happens if it's something else? Something you've never seen before. Essentially what you're doing is taking a theory to determine what happened. That doesn't work. You need to begin with looking at the evidence. The evidence will always tell you the truth. The trick is not to be distracted away from what the evidence is telling you. So you collect data to determine what happened, and once you know what happened, you usually know how it happened. So finding out what happened is the most important thing. Then you can determine how it happened, who was involved, why they did it. But what we're going to concentrate on, because it's the most important thing, is what happened. The main thing of what happened, the towers didn't burn up, nor did they slam to the ground. They turned into dust in midair. Wait, does that look like a collapse to you? We were told it was a collapse. We were basically brainwashed into reacting to this picture, like flashcards. Memorize the word collapse when you see this. But that's not a collapse. If they'd slammed into the ground, there would be over 1 million tons of debris piled up on the ground. But that didn't happen. If they had slammed to the ground, Manhattan would have been flooded, because the bathtub, which holds out the Hudson River, would have been ruptured. We'll talk about the bathtub a little bit more. And that didn't happen. And if they'd slammed to the ground, the seismic readings would have recorded two 500,000-ton buildings slamming to the ground, plus a 230,000-ton building slamming to the ground. And that didn't happen. So here we have what was left after the towers went away. Only buildings with a WTC prefix were destroyed that day. Really, hardly anything else was even scratched. A few damaging things here and there, but nothing catastrophic that couldn't be repaired. That's all that was left of the North Tower. North wall, the south wall, and a little bit of stairwell B. But right in front of the front door, why don't you have piles of steel structure? And there's this ambulance in pretty much pristine condition. Maybe the door got done a little bit, but I don't see any big piece of steel clobbering the top of it. The top view of what was left, we have Building 3 here, Tower 1, Tower 2, Building 6, it had all these cylindrical cutouts in it. Approximately the middle 50% of that building's missing. Building 5 had cylindrical cutouts in it. Some circular cutouts there. Building 7 went missing. The buildings on either side weren't really destroyed much. There's some stab wounds, I call it, some pieces of steel beam that went into this building, but essentially nothing happened to this building. The sidewalk in front of it didn't even get covered. And Building 4, that's when it often gets forgotten. The north wing of it seemed to be sliced off like with an X-Acto knife, and the main body of the building just went missing. Just the north wing stayed, or that part of the north wing. Here's that remaining stub of the north wing of Building 4, and looking at it directly on, here's what you would see. So here's what was left, this elevation map, but there's what should have been there, that ghost pattern. And if you notice, there's a little pimple down there at the bottom of Building 3. 14 folks survived down there. The rest of the building went away, and who was left in that little quarter there survived. Also, the bottom of Tower 1, that little hump there, that was stairwell B. 14 people survived there as well. And one of them, when they came out, said this. I looked and said, guys, there used to be 106 floors above us, and now I'm seeing sunshine. There's nothing above us. That big building doesn't exist. These are the biggest office buildings in the world, and I didn't see one desk or one chair or one phone, nothing. Here's a slow motion image. Yeah, you see this like a stick. Keep watching it. It turns to dust. I have a faster one of this, but notice how all this is trailing dust. That's not from a dirty windowsill. It'll play a few times. You also see things squirting out as it moves down. That clump of core columns from Tower 1 that seems to remain just a little bit after the rest and then turns to dust, I'm sort of expecting that is, or suspicious that is right above where those 14 people survived, who thought they would have been crushed and looked up and saw blue sky. Here's Tower 1 coming apart, and it peels away like peeling a banana, and left with these little spires sticking up. That's about 700 feet tall. It's got to be pretty strong to be standing unsupported that tall. Here's Building 7, which is a 47-story building. It's like 650 feet tall, approximately. This has got to be over that. And here's a closer view, and then it starts to drop down and kind of faints. Here it is from a slightly different angle. You'll just faint. Now we're going to look at still frames from yet a different position. Remember, it peels away like a banana, leaves it exposed, blue sky, crisp edges. That's not dust settling on it. And then it comes to the point where it no longer has crisp edges and dustifies.